Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Tristan's Reef. Today we're going to take a look at two products. One of them is the Koralia Pump Generation 3 and the Jebao PP8 controllable pumps. Now, one of the reasons that we're doing this experiment today is because I've noticed something strange going on in my reef. Every day, my pH levels are pretty low, and although I'm running my airline outside of the stand and I'm also running it near an open window, my pH will hover somewhere in the neighborhood of right around 7.8 to 8.1, and I was trying to figure out why that was happening. What I came to the conclusion was that my pH would rise during the daytime and in the morning, right at the start of when my Vortec MP40s would start up and start creating a little bit more surface action. And what that ended up telling me was that I was not having good gas exchange. Now, one of the easiest way to get gas exchange at the surface of your water is to go ahead and point some power heads at them. And I wanted to take an opportunity to try that out to see if it would raise my pH or not. So my first choice to add a pretty inexpensive pump was to try out these new Koralia Gen 3s. Now, let's take a look at what comes inside of the box. So right out of the box, you get a couple of different items. First of all, you get three different diffusers. You also get a little wrap here that goes around the wire to protect it from fish that or coralline or even from fraying against the edge of your tank. And you also get the unique suction cup mount that they have. Now what's supposed to happen is that this side goes on the outside, this side goes on the inside, and the pump itself just suctions on right onto it there. Now I went ahead and I installed this power head in my reef, and the suction cup mounts here are really rated for up to 1.5 inch, 0.6 inches according to BRS and a few other online retailers. And I have to tell you, although this is a beautiful and simplistic way of mounting these pumps to your wall, if you have 1/2 inch thick glass, don't even bother. These things were a huge failure. And I can tell you why that was a failure, actually. Now, what's supposed to happen is that these guys are supposed to make a nice little suction against your glass. And I cleaned my glass before I installed the pumps. And I installed the pumps according to the manufacturer's recommended. I even called up Hydor and spoke to their customer service, and they pretty much told me that this guy is supposed to make a really great suction to your glass, and frankly it just doesn't. In the course of about an hour and a half or so, I watched multiple times as the pump, this part inside, became separated from my glass. Ended up sending my pump down to the sand bed, kicking up sand everywhere, scaring the crap out of my fish. So I was not very happy with how this mounted. So other than the mounting situation here, let's talk about flow. Flow wise, I have to say I was very disappointed with these pumps. I tried all three of the possible diffusers to try and get my surface of the water to ripple. I angled the pump at the surface of the water, and for the most part I can barely get the water to travel halfway across my tank. My tank is 60 inches long, and I would say that these guys were probably getting out there to around 18 inches, maybe 20 inches maximum, and that's with both of them on. So in between them popping off the glass and not really putting out much flow, I was not very impressed. One of the things I realized was this guy is the cheapest pump you could probably find on Amazon, listed at 800 liters per hour, 3,000 liters per hour. So not that very powerful, but this guy at four of these pumps for $10 was blowing the crap out of these Koralia Gen 3s. So it was not a great experience. One of the second things I noticed about this pump is not really mentioned in the actual description of the pump, and I haven't seen a lot of other reviewers do it. So when this is attached, the pump is able to pull water through all of the different areas through this area here. Now, as this slides around in this socket, I noticed significantly that the water that it was pulling in or pulling out and pushing through the front of the pump was severely reduced. And I'm not even sure if you guys can see this, but let's take a look at it. The size of that propeller. I'm tempted to say that the only difference between this pump and the larger 1950 and 2350 are really just the size of the impeller. And going by what I saw at the local fish shop when I was able to take a look at the other sizes of this pump, the sizes between them don't vary very much, but the propellers do. Build quality, not impressed. The plastic on this guy is extremely soft, and honestly, I felt like I was going to break it multiple times. And I know that I don't feel like this is going to hold up in a reef environment for very long, at least not through cleanings and fish and snails and stuff getting on it. Overall, for a $60, $67 product for each pump, I was not very impressed with the quality of the pump itself. One of the other things I really disliked about the pump itself was the actual cable. Now, the cable comes through the top. It is extremely stiff. Now, it does feel a really great high quality cable, but it is so stiff that while angling the pump, unless the cable was supported somewhere on the outside of the tank to allow some slack inside of the tank, the cable alone, it was able to just pull the pump away from the actual mount itself. And this was just not working in my tank. I didn't want all that of the excess cable inside of the tank, just for hooking on things or looking pretty unattractive overall. So at my wit's end, I headed over to my local fish shop and picked up two of these Jebao PP8 propeller pumps. The fish shop that I went to was Nemo's Reef, and shout out to Kevin at Nemo's Reef for helping me get a great deal on these pumps. It really saved me from having to deal with shipping or returns or if something wasn't working correctly. These were great value for the money. Not only were they smaller than the Hydor Koralias over here, but they pumped way more water. Easily one pump reached the other side of my tank without issue. And together, on their lowest setting, the pumps had the top of my water rippling like crazy and giving me that gas exchange that I was looking for. So the next clip, we're going to take a look at these guys on my tank and the surface rippling effect that I'm getting from these two pumps. So I went ahead and quickly turned on my lights so that you guys can get an idea of the type of surface action I'm getting with these Jebao PP8s. And as you can see, both of them are actually on the lowest setting possible in the constant mode. And just wow, I am completely blown away at the surface rippling effect that I'm getting. I used to get a lot of that oil slick that you can kind of see a little bit of it here in the corner. I only installed these pumps about 15 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago. And while I was trying the Koralia for almost 2 days, it never gave me this type of water movement at the top of the tank. I think the water movement here at the top of the tank, I've only ever seen come from gyres. And although 2 gyres would have accomplished the same effect, they would have been at a significantly higher cost. And for me being able to point these pumps around, orient them however I want to orient them, and the entry-level cost was amazing. One of the added benefits of adding these two pumps is that I tend to run my Vortec MP40s in constant, sometimes run them in a Reef crest. So with these new pumps installed, I'm breaking up that flow across the top of the Reef. It is coming right down to the bottom here across my other corals that are here on the sand bed, and the flow is amazing. It's caused almost everything to open up really wide. The polyp extension on a lot of my corals are really flowing in the wind. And this was some of the things I was looking for from having that indirect flow across the surface of the water. And I was able to accomplish that with these two pumps. So again, big shout out to Kevin over at Nemo's Reef. I'll put up the address to Nemo's Reef and the phone number there for you guys to go and check out the store. It is my preferred store. I shop there all the time, and I make it a point to visit there at least every 2 weeks to check out and see what they have new in stock. This is not a sponsored video. I did pay my own money for these pumps. They had a great selection. They had them available right away, and I didn't have to wait for any type of shipping from China or Amazon or even Prime. So I love that I was able to go and pick them up at the store. So big shout out to Nemo's Reef. So guys, it's been roughly about 10 hours, 11 hours now since I started pointing the new power heads at the surface of my water to increase my pH. And as you guys can see, last night, lights fully on, my pH was hovering right in the neighborhood of 7.9, 7.8, 8.01. And then we start seeing exactly what I was talking about. So over the course of the night, with no lights on, my pH is now hovering at 8.11. So taking a look at my controller here, my pH is at 8.11, and taking a look at the tank itself, wow. I have not seen some of my corals this open, this fluffy, this polyp extension in quite a long time, at least not since I had those Hydor Koralias kind of helping me with the surface tension and movement. But this is what I'm looking at right now today. Everything is opened up, doing really great. Full polyp extensions, flower anemones who went on a walkabout in the tank, they're opened up. My surface is just moving. The entire surface is just churning, helping with that gas exchange. You know, what I'm finding is after adding those pumps, I am getting a lot more particulates in the water. And I know those are going to be filtered out over time within the next couple of days. I might use some biomagnet clarifier to bind up some of those particles. But the reason that those are actually in the water column right now is because if you look at the vortex, they're pushing right against the rocks. They're pushing, you know, across the tops of the corals, and they're getting dispersed pretty quickly. Now, the Jebaos in the back end over there, going across the surface, is bouncing across the front glass, across the bottom, through the rocks, and into a lot of those nooks and crannies. And what that's doing is pulling out a lot of detritus that is trapped inside of my rocks and bringing them up to the surface, and they're getting skimmed right off. My skimmer is really full right now. Take a look at this guy. And this was pretty much almost overnight. It's just been pulling out so much junk that's been coming over the overflow after getting those power heads in there. So that can only be a good thing. So guys, thank you very much for watching this little experiment. I know this was a pretty long video, but thank you guys for sticking here with me. You can see the results for yourself. Please like and subscribe if you like these videos. I really like doing this for you guys, and I want to continue doing it for you. So like and subscribe. Drop me a comment if you have any other suggestions for raising my pH or even for the tank itself. And I will catch you guys on the next one.